Saruhan Hatipoglu is back with us now to help unpack this very busy day in Washington. So let's start with the public impeachment hearing. Trump said he was too busy to watch it, but what were some of the highlights for you?
Well, I think today he was busy. He was meeting with different presidents and all that. But the highlight, I think to me that the movement was now from the impeachment inquiry to the proceedings. I think we're going there, and I think we have seen more partisanship in the House today, and I don't think there's going to be any difference. It's really kind of easy to forecast what's going to happen here. President Trump is going to be impeached, but he's not going to be indicted. So I think today was some of the things that we heard were disturbing. Quid pro quo, was it there, was it not? And I believe from what we heard today that there was something here, and we're going to hear more, and that's why the Democrats actually moved it to open public debate so that the American people can hear about what's going on. Because one thing I can tell you is that behind closed doors, a lot of Democrats and some Republicans are convinced that something irregular happened. But if you ask President supporters or in general American public, they're not sure. They don't know whether something happened or not. This public hearing is actually going to help people make their minds.
And we know that for a lot of people who perhaps outside of Washington aren't as focused on these impeachment proceedings, they're probably more worried about what's happening with the economy, with jobs, etc. We know that Trump has really been focusing on his economic agenda while this is going on. Did we hear anything in what he's been saying about the economy that could sway voters one way or another?
I don't think so. I think he has a good economic record with the stock market doing well, economic activity and overall unemployment one of the lowest in many, many years. So economically, the U.S. is doing well. Now, you can, of course, argue that some of these policies were put into action during the Obama presidency. But the bottom line is President Trump, this has happened during his reign. And I think he has that, and people are looking at it, his supporters, and say, look, we're happy with what we have. One thing that may change the paradigm, though, is consumption. We are looking at business investment, for example, that turned negative in the past 2 quarters. Now, the impact of that on businesses, hiring people, and eventually trickling down to consumption is something to watch. Employment numbers are always lagging indicators. So in a couple of months or 3 months or so, we may see actually unemployment tick up. More people are laid off, and that could turn the scenario completely reverse for President Trump.
Because there has been a lot of focus on the stock market and the historically low unemployment rates. Are there any concerns that we should also be keeping a watch on? I know you mentioned consumption and business confidence.
Yeah, I hear a lot from clients that stock market performance, what's going to happen. Well, if you look at what happened during impeachment in 1974 with Nixon and then 1998 with Bill Clinton, it was completely different. 1974, S&P 500 lost 13% or so during the inquiry to the resignation of President Nixon then. Under President Clinton, it gained about 25% or so. And the reason for that is how the economy was faring between the two presidents. During the Nixon era, there was high unemployment, inflation, gas prices were soaring, whereas under Bill Clinton, the economy was doing well. So I think we're closer to the 1998 proceedings in terms of what will happen. And the stock market we've seen today, it didn't do anything, really. It's the first time the investigation was open to public. So the stock market performance is just going to watch economic activity. And so I'm not worried about it. In terms of fundamentals, again, consumption is something very important to watch, and I believe President Trump is watching that very carefully.
Now, we know that when President Trump was campaigning, there were a number of things that he focused on, including his big infrastructure push. Of the things that are still unresolved, did we hear anything about where that might be headed and perhaps any room for his Democratic rivals to perhaps have a chance to jump in?
Well, they will jump in, but in terms of a bipartisan agreement, I think we can kiss that goodbye. That's over. It's not going to happen. Once the investigation becomes public, people's feelings are hurt, to say the least, Democrats, Republicans. So they're not going to see eye to eye on this. But yes, Democratic plan is going to include infrastructure spending. We're going to see it more and more in presidential debates. Right now, there's recovery taking place because under presidential candidate Warren, the wealth tax issue, as well as some of the measures that Bernie Sanders as well is advocating are truly scary for investors. So there is going to be some kind of a centrist movement within the Democratic Party, and then a common agreement on a targeted infrastructure plan that is going to bring the party together. At least they're hoping that's what's going to happen.
Well, thank you so much. Always great to have you on. CGTN's Global Economics Analyst and CEO of Berry, Saruhan Hatipoglu. Thanks again.